So, and our next live Jimmy Dore show, February 1st in Burbank, California. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link. Tucker Carlson. Now, I don't know if you know who this guy is. That's Mark Blyth. He's the political economist. I don't know if that's what they call him, but he's a friend of the show. We've had him on twice, and he coined the phrase global Trumpism.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one who told us that Brexit is not a local event. He was the one who also told us that the Hamptons are are a low-lying area, not easily defensible. And that means that the 1% should get ready for the revolution. So that's who he is. Tucker Carlson has him on to talk about young people embracing socialism. Now, while Tucker Carlson says lots of knuckleheady things, in my opinion, and a lot of people say he's a white nationalist and all that stuff. So there's a lot of bad. So when I show a clip of Tucker Carlson, it's to show you that even a guy like Tucker Carlson, because the whole point of me doing this show is that even a guy like me, a dumb nightclub jagoff comedian, C-student his whole life, if I can see through it, that means that they can see through it, which means they're lying to you. So when I knew that the housing market was going to crash, I was like, even I could see it coming. If I could see it coming, that means they could see it coming, and I could see it coming in 2006. So that they all knew and didn't do it. So that's why when I show Tucker, I'm like, well, if Tucker Carlson has these thoughts and he sees the truth of this situation, that means that everybody does. Because Tucker and I are two knuckleheads. That's my point. People always, again, like to say, why are you propping up? I'm not doing that, you assholes.
No, I mean, that's the point that makes it so much more significant.
Yes.
You know, I mean, Tucker Carlson is someone, I would say 99.9% of the time, I don't agree with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah.
So when there's those things where it's like, oh, he's actually making sense about this certain topic, well, that topic is basically a universal truth then.
Yeah.
And whoever's not reporting it that way, it's because they're paid to not understand it.
It's like, why are they allowing Tucker Carlson to be the Shep? They already have Shep Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they let him be Shep Smith sometimes too? Right? And Shep Smith's the guy who can tell the truth, the counter narrative on Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think sometimes on Fox News, they bring the opposition on to kind of try to go head-to-head with them, try to get a juicy soundbite. But sometimes the person is just this well-spoken intellectual who knows their stuff, like Mark Blyth.
Yeah. So do you think that's what they were doing, that he was trying to bring on Mark Blyth to kind of... I don't think... So let's watch the clip, and you tell me. So he brings on Mark Blyth. Watch this.
Fundamentally, most elections are about the economy.
Fundamentally, elections are about the economy. Tucker Carlson told the truth. Everybody take a shot. Okay, here we go.
Fundamentally, most elections are about the economy. That has always been true. What's striking about the polling in this one is how many voters say they want profound change to the U.S. economy. Young people famously say they identify with socialism pretty strongly. The question is, why is that? It's not just that they're being misinformed. Is the current economy not working for them?
It's not just that they're being misinformed. I love how he says that. It's not just, why are they into socialism? It's not just that they're being misinformed. No, it might be some crazy idea that they think it's important to eat and stuff. They might have a crazy idea that you should be paid a living wage if you work an honest job. You know, crazy stuff. It's not just being misinformed. It's also those other ideas.
Having rent covered is cool, kids.
So here we go. He brings on Mark Blyth.
Mark Blyth is a professor of political science and international public affairs at Brown University in Providence, and he joins us tonight.
Professor of political science, I always thought he was a professor of political economist. Economist? No, I was wrong. Professor of political science.
Professor, thanks for coming on. So my theory, and I think it's right, is that a lot of young people say they want real economic change because the current economy is not working for them, and the boom that we're seeing in markets isn't reflected in the economy they experience. Do you think that's true?
What? Tucker Carlson understands what the problem is? Tucker Carlson says his theory is that the economy isn't as good as it used to be, and young people are going to struggle no matter how. Yeah, what? That's what he just said, right?
Yeah, well, he's also trying to imply that there's some boom going on. He's like, oh, are the young people just not seeing this boom? You know.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
So there's a little bit of leading there. I think, he wants to go toe-to-toe, I feel like.
Oh, okay.
I think there's definitely a lot of truth in that. what a lot of your viewers will obviously feel themselves is that they're working harder constantly, but at the same time, while there's lots of employment, lots of jobs, no one's saying this economy isn't good, it's not really showing up in wages. And that's been a story that's been going on for a very long time now, all the way back to the late 70s, in fact.
Wow, that moment, Tucker Carlson and Mark Blyth, that moment you realize that your best chance to see a progressive on a cable news show is on Fox. There he is. That was kind of amazing. Okay, here we go.
Interesting. So it
that is interesting. Here we go. Interesting is code for, man, I wish we could have edited that part out.
It's also true that young people entering the labor market, say for the first 10 years of employment, 22 to 32, that they are finding themselves behind where their parents' generation was at those ages.
That's true. And
yes. So Tucker Carlson looks like he's not sure on that one. He's
Right.
like, is it also true that 22 to 32-year-olds are having a harder time? Is that true? Yeah, you wouldn't even have to ask that question, Tucker, if you went to literally anywhere in the country.
Professor Blyth, I saw this meme the other day. There was an avocado on it. Some kids made it. Is there any truth to this? Or is it just myth?
Okay, here we go. Is there any truth to that 22 to 32-year-olds are not having it as good as their parents did?
they've also got something that their parents didn't have in many cases, a very large debt burden coming from student loans. So if you think about what that does, by the time that their parents were getting into their 30s, they're marrying, they're having kids, they're building houses and homes, they're forming assets, as you would say. You're
Yes.
paying off your debt, and you haven't had a chance to do that yet. So that's acting as a drag on their future consumption and ultimately on their lives.
What I don't understand is why this isn't causing alarm bells to go off. If you
This is causing, well, let's listen to the rest of the question.
young people can't form families, by definition, your society will become less stable, but nobody seems to care. Why is that?
Well, alarm bells have been going off. I don't know if you called the 2016 election where a 70-something no-name senator was filling stadiums with millennials. That was an alarm bell. At the same time, the establishment candidate couldn't fill a gymnasium with $1 billion in her pocket. That was an alarm bell. That wasn't an alarm bell. That was an alarm bell to me. How about also the alarm bell of the statistics that 80% of all workers in America live paycheck to paycheck? How about the alarm bell if 30 million Americans don't have health care? How about the alarm bell that 50% of all wage earners earn $30,000 or less? How about the alarm bell that 64% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency? Those aren't alarm bells to you? How about the alarm bell that they elected Trump? How about that alarm bell that half the country stayed home, including Wisconsin and Michigan, and we elected Trump? That's not an alarm. That wasn't a wake-up call. So there are a lot of alarm bells going off.
Yeah, we can go back even further. How about the alarm bell of Occupy? How about the alarm bell
What
of
was Occupy? Right, go ahead.
Barack Obama winning in 2008 in a landslide by
A
promising
black guy with a, that wasn't a, right?
promising a platform he didn't deliver on, but nonetheless promising that platform.
So there's definitely a lot of alarm bells. They just weren't really talked about like they should have been in the media. So then maybe you don't think they were alarm bells, but they were there. Okay.
I think because the incentives for both parties are skewed in a really interesting way, which is the following.
So the question is why he's asking, why isn't anybody doing anything about this? Right? If you can't have a society without young people being able to have a stable future and blah, 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 why isn't anybody doing anything? And he's going to explain to you, because of the way our political system works, young people don't vote and old people do. Here we go. Let me back it up a little.
Young people can't form families, by definition, your society will become less stable, but nobody seems to care. Why is that?
I think because the incentives for both parties are skewed in a really interesting way, which is the following. Old people own 80% of all the assets in the world, and they're the people that vote twice as much as young people. So if young people are too busy worrying about paying off their loans and not going out to vote, then politicians are going to go where the money and the votes are, and that's with old people, and that's what they care about.
But, I mean, don't long-term you risk having upheavals in your society? Things become really volatile, and that's bad for everybody if you don't have an economy that allows people to get vested in the society?
Where it's particularly dangerous, less than the social upheaval, is in the financial sector. So we all borrow against our futures, and we try and use that cash wisely to invest in ourselves. But if your wages haven't been rising, people are borrowing for consumption. And if at the end of the day their wages ain't going to rise, they're not going to be able to pay that off over the long term. And that puts big stresses into the financial sector.
So it seems to be that Tucker is inadvertently or unwittingly stumbling upon the reason why we have Trump. That people are hurting and politicians aren't offering any relief. They're not offering any answers. Trump comes along and says, I'm going to give everybody health care and the government's going to pay for it. He said that, which means he ran against Hillary to her left. He said, I'm going to end all those wars. He said that. He didn't do it. He didn't do any of those two things. But he said it, and he's running again on foreign policy to the left of Hillary Clinton. And he said, I'm going to repeal NAFTA, and we're going to get rid of the TPP. He ran to the left of her again on economics. Wasn't hard, turns out. So this is the reason why. So they're stumbling. This is again reason, but this isn't titled why we have Trump. They're not saying that's why people got desperate and voted for Trump. The same country that elected Barack Obama twice overwhelmingly, then stayed home and didn't vote for Hillary. Why? When they were threatened with Trump. This is why. And Tucker Carlson's like, well, hey, this is serious stuff. How come nobody's doing anything about it? And he's saying, because old people have all the assets and they don't give a crap. And they control the voting electorate. It's more than that. It's also because the media is controlled by the oligarchs. The government's controlled by the oligarchs, which means the elections are controlled by the oligarchs. So he misses that part of it, but he's got the other part completely right. That's certainly one part of it, that the people who vote twice as likely are old people, and they have all the money and assets, and they don't give a crap as much as they should.
That is really prescient. Nobody is talking about that. You're one of the very few who is, and I'm always grateful when you come on the show. Thank you.
We're talking about it here. We've been talking about it here forever. Why aren't people talking about it, Tucker? Why aren't people doing more about it? Well, because at any given moment, 2 out of the 3 news networks on cable are going to be talking about Russia, and the other one's going to be talking about a war on Christmas. Maybe that would be why. Okay, so there it is in a nutshell. Fox News. It's like that's the kind of stuff you won't hear. You're not going to. Why? You're not going to hear that on Rachel Maddow. Why? Because she's talking about Russiagate all day.
Yeah.
She's not talking about why we got Trump. She's just talking about Trump. And that's a big failing of most news networks today, even independent news networks. They spend most of their time talking about Trump and none of their time talking about the reason why we got Trump. And what are we going to do once we get rid of Trump? And it's amazing that if Tucker Carlson can stumble onto this, that means that everybody should know this. That's why I'm saying this. And that means Rachel Maddow knows this. Chris Hayes knows that he's become the thing. He used to write about the thing he became. A tool of corporations. He used to write about how it happens through osmosis, through it just being around. He wrote about it in his book. And he became that. They don't even... So they know this stuff. And here's Tucker. How come nobody's talking about it? Because they're always talking about Russiagate or the war on Christmas or Barack Obama's tan suit. Anything else, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, kudos that they had him on. I mean,
Yes.
I think it's a cool thing. And you know, like what I said earlier, I do think typically on Fox News when they bring lefties on, and that's why you see it on Fox News more than MSNBC
That's
or
correct.
CNN, they do want to have a debate. Whether that was the intention here, I have no idea. I'm not a mind reader. But I think it was one of those things. He was just so solid on his points. The Tucker Carlson was just kind of like, well, okay, is this for real? And he's like, yes, it's for real. It's for real. Promise you, it's real.
Okay. There you go. Why do the kids like the socialism? I wonder why the kids like the socialism. Well, maybe because the capitalism almost killed them. Our next live Jimmy Dore show is February 1st in Burbank, California. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a list of all our live shows, and please become a premium member if you can. Become a patron. It's the way we support this show because they're coming at us, and we give you bonus. We give you hours of bonus material every week. Check it out. Become a patron. And if you can, make sure you're still subscribed. They unsubscribe people every day. I know it sounds crazy. It only takes a second. Please make sure and click that bell when you subscribe so they'll send you a note.